people! Hello everyone and welcome to the New York Empoleon Week 3 battle of the PCL. We are here this week taking on the commissioner of the league, the owner, the founder, Garchomp, the god, Austin himself. And if you did not see a couple of weeks back, we had a live stream event on my live stream channel where both Amanda and I wore these sick Piplup onesies for a tournament that was taking place through the Poke Equality Discord server. If you have not heard about that, it is a safe space server where anyone can join and hang out, and we can talk about Pokemon, and we can talk about issues going on without judgment, without fear of repercussion, and people can have a safe space in their own way. It is heavily moderated, just bear that in mind. If you do want to join, the link is in the description below. Definitely check that out. It is an absolutely wonderful area and community. We are doing community events all the time, and I just wanted you guys to be aware of the fact that this is something I now own as the owner of the New York Empoleon. We now are the proud owner of a Piplup onesie as well. Yeah, you guys, I don't know if you guys actually, like, appreciate it. You guys got to appreciate the fact that there's a tail on my butt right now. So, anyway, all that aside, we are actually going to be prepared for a battle here. So just so you guys are aware, I am actually taking on Austin a week early. He was going on vacation the week of the actual battle, and since instead of doing super fast editing, we both decided it would just be easier to do this week, and then I'll get next week off, basically, when I'm supposed to be doing this battle. So I'm doing 2 battles this week, this and the PCL Week 2 battle, which I actually have not yet had. So I don't know my record yet. Somewhere between 1-1 and 2-0 at this point in the season when you guys are actually seeing this. But Austin, great guy, and I told him, I promised him I'd wear the onesie, so here we are in it and having a good time. And yeah, so hopefully you guys are excited for this battle. If you are, definitely check out my other content. Definitely check out Austin's side of the battle as well. Should be a phenomenal battle. He's a great guy, and I remember the most hype battle I've ever had was against Austin in the ICBA Season 4 Finals. So definitely go check that out if you've never seen it. But this is only Week 3. We've got lots of time ahead of us in this season. If you don't know, his team is Hawlucha, Manectric, GMax, Charizard, Kyurem, Indeedee, Male, Drapion, Blastoise, Decidueye, Oranguru, Steelix, and Pyukumuku. So right off the bat, obviously terrifying team across the board. Why he has 2 Psychic Normal types, I'm not sure, but they're really scary in their own right. Now, Kyurem is a menace in this league, in Gen 8. I think it's honestly ridiculously good. And of course, I'm facing like them in every single league that I'm in right now, which is super frustrating because they're actually really solid. GMax Charizard with no item restriction is broken. That thing is insane. And then Hawlucha is always it just does Hawlucha things, and that's just the way that Hawlucha does. So, what are we going to bring to counter his team? Well, if you look up and down his entire roster, please name a switch-in to Urshifu. Just name one. Look at his roster and name one. Hawlucha. Okay, I give you Hawlucha. It resists both stabs. Sort of. It's not that bulky. But other than that, like, what's his Wicked Blow switch-in? So I decided maybe Scarf is optimal. But if he gets his Unburden boost, it's not going to matter if I'm Scarfed or not anyway. I'm just going to run Banded. I'm going to use this thing as just like an absolute, like, cut through his team. Early game, just spam U-turn, get myself into the other Mons so that when I can come in with this thing and just click Wicked Blow, it'll kill something basically every single time, or force him to switch into something unfavorable. The Decidueye resists the close combat. That's not going to want to take a U-turn well. It does not take a Wicked Blow well. And if I need to click Sucker Punch, I have access to it just in case, because this thing does outspeed most of his team, but not quite all of it. And I just figured Bandit Urshifu, let's bring it. Whatever, it's Austin. He's a good guy, and if we lose, we lose, but I got a chance to run Bandit Urshifu well, I'm in a Piplup onesie, so whatever, dude. Let's make that happen. Next up, we have our Rotom Wash. Rotom Wash is going to be a specially defensive set this week with the light screen, so very much trying to take those special hits. I'm not as worried about his physical threats against the Rotom. The reason for this is that Charizard is mostly incentivized to run Solar Beam for the Rotom and stuff, and Light Screen will help me deal with that. It's going to probably, if it wants to run Solar Beam, it wants to run like max Airstream, That can be a special attack. It can run solar power. He doesn't really have a sun setter, but that doesn't mean he can't run, you know, a solar power Zard, set up the sun with Manectric or whatever, and then go into it. So Charizard definitely a threat. Light Screen just helps me against most of his big threats against this Rotom, which are things like the Charizard and the Manectric, as that'll just help my whole team. Defog, I don't think it's going to be that big this week. I don't see him setting up hazards. I mean, the Steelix Rotom matchup's always a really interesting one, but I don't see him setting up hazards that freely. So Hydro Pump and Volt Switch covered everything I wanted. Light Screen did what I wanted to do. I am not running Light Clay. I'm actually running Leftovers on this set just because I want that little bit of passive recovery all the, you know, throughout the match. So that's the Rotom this week. Next up, we have the Araquanid making its debut this season. This thing is going to be Liquidation, Sticky Web, Mirror Coat, and Toxic. It is going to be rocking out with the Mystic Water. Mystic Water boosted Liquidation, Adamant Natured. With that investment, OHKO's a offensive Charizard from full when it's G-maxed. What? Yeah, so that's crazy. This thing obviously doesn't OHKO a defensive Charizard from full, but if he goes for a flying type attack, I am EV'd to survive a max Airstream and be able to Mirror Coat and take him out if he does go for that option. And he really has no incentive to go for anything other than max Airstream on this Mon specifically. And if I do want to set up the Sticky Web in the mid or late game, if this thing's still around, that's definitely an option. It's not like a primary option. It's just a option that I can run. Toxic is there for things like the Blastoise. This thing does wall shell smash Blastoise pretty well unless he goes physical with Rock Slide. I still do take one hit if I need to, and I can throw out the Toxic if I have to. So Blastoise definitely checked by this if it is a special set. This thing can take a lot of the special hits from the Indeedee, the Manectric, things like that if it needs to. Mirror Coat's super useful for things like the Manectric that want to go for a Volt Switch or something, and then I can just get big damage off on something other than the Drapion, obviously. And then Liquidation just does huge damage to everything. This thing just spams Water-type attacks. That's what it does. Everyone knows that's what a Araquanid does. But that is what I'm going to be running this week. Next up is going to be the Trompa is coming for the first time this week as well. This thing is going to be Glare, Hyper Voice, excuse me, Glare, Hyper Voice, Surf, and Dragon Pulse with the Throat Spray. That's what I was trying to say. Since Hyper Voice is super spammable against his roster, Decidueye does not come in on a Trompa very happily. Mostly because of the possible coverage it can be running. Glare is just amazing against his roster. This can take one hit from the Charizard if it hasn't gotten a bunch of boosts up yet. So that is super nice. Glare it. You know, it can take one hit maybe from the Kyurem if it in like a pinch if it needs to. That's why I'm running some special defenses just to try to take that one hit. Go for the Glare, be able to then just spam Dragon Pulse, Hyper Voice, whatever. If I can get a Hyper Voice, Throat Spray, and Berserk boost, I'm basically killing something if I can outspeed it, which is huge. So I do have access to the Sticky Web. I do have access to the Glare. And as you guys are going to find out in a second, I also do have access to the Trick Room because that is another side of my team. So I've got a lot of speed control this week since his team and my team. Definitely the speed matchups go in his favor most of the time. So I definitely have to be a little bit more creative with how I'm going to be handling those. Because he has access to the Indeedee, I decided I'm going to run Expanding Force on this thing. I know I probably don't have a lot of incentive to click a Psychic type attack most of the time. Dazzling Gleam getting the guaranteed Confusion is great, hits more of his team more powerfully than the Psychic type attack does. So unless the Psychic terrain is specifically already up, then I don't think there's really a reason for me to click Psychic type attack, but I really wanted to run one because I didn't not want to have the coverage in case something like the... I'm not even sure in this case what he would run that I would be more tempted to click the Psychic type attack than the Fairy Stab. I guess the Charizard in Trick Room with Psychic Terrain already up. If the Charizard comes in, that's one thing that I can definitely click the Psychic attack on. And just the Expanding Force does so much damage, something like that. So I figured it's good to have. More than likely, the play is going to be Trick Room into GMax Smite, get the Confusion, see if I can get some fun Confusion hacks, and then this thing can do some huge work. If things are chipped, this thing kills Mons. If they aren't quite chipped, then this thing doesn't quite kill them, but it does a lot of damage, which is super nice. One thing that I definitely have to keep an eye on is that Steelix coming in and Mystical Fire not getting the OHKO because of Sturdy, and then it going for an Explosion that takes me out straight up. So I definitely have to watch out for that. It is one way for him to just remove me. That being said, I can just go for a max guard and scout out if he wants to go for the explosion, since he would have to do it on the first turn, predicting the Mystical Fire and the Sturdy and everything like that. So that is an option. It is a way to use my max move if I wanted to, although I'm not Sure, that's obviously it's not my ideal. This does underspeed the Steelix no matter what. I'm running 0 speed and I underspeed it by 1 point, so guaranteed underspeed the Steelix unless he's running like room service, which would be crazy. I will be able to go before everything except for the Pyukumuku with this mod. And lastly, we have the Trevenant. Trevenant is going to be rocking out this week with the... Oh, I didn't say what item that was holding, but that was holding a Mental Herb just in case there's a taunt getting thrown around by something like the Halucha that knows it doesn't want to stay in and take a hit. Goes for the taunt, Mental Herb, get the Trick Room, still kill the Halucha. It's great. We're good. So definitely just wanted to have that as a backup. Although I am Magic Bounce. I don't actually know if Magic Bounce... I don't think Magic Bounce bounces taunt. Maybe it does. Maybe that was a bad play. Although he could be Mold Breaker Halucha, so I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to change it right now, but it is definitely something that I got to keep in mind for the future, for team building. And lastly, we have Trevenant. Trevenant is also a Trick Room setter because, again, speed control is the name of the game here. I have the Poltergeist, which is a little bit stressful because the Halucha could use its item up, which makes it a hard wall to this, more or less. But if it doesn't use its item up, even if it does use its item up, I have a Koba Berry, so I can take an Acrobatics if I need to, get some damage off. If it doesn't use its item up, because indeed he doesn't have a great matchup, and I don't think he wants to set up the Psychic Terrain for me, that for my Hatterene, then he may not bring it. He may bring like a Sash Halucha. Poltergeist will still hit that, and I'll break that Sash, which is super nice. So, and then Trick Room on this, just useful. This thing underspeeds basically his entire roster that isn't named Steelix. Poltergeist giving me the information of what item things are holding is super nice. Obviously, the Indeedee and the Oranguru are immune to it, but they don't take like they don't love taking a Horn Leech from this. I'm not running a ton of attack investment. This is a very defensive set, as you guys can see. So definitely want to take the hits more than I want to dish them out. Charizard has no reason, in my opinion, to go for a fire type attack on this. It has more incentive to go for a flying type attack. That's why I opted for the Koba Berry. If he does decide to go for a fire type attack, that is what it is. Rock Slide does hit his normal switch-ins like the Kyurem, like the Charizard, things like that would normally be able to switch into a Horn Leech pretty freely. It can hit those and just do decent damage. And then the Trick Room is more just gives me that speed control back for a few turns and maybe gets my Drampa to start putting in a ton of work. So that's the roster. We're going to be rocking out tomorrow with this Penguins on. Once again, you guys are going to see it for 2 straight videos. So happy day to all of you. I will see you guys all back here next week tomorrow as we take on Austin, the Garchomp the God, and the Lawrence Talonflames. Thank you all so much for watching. Piplup out.